You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at KeeleyCompanies.com.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. Our guest today joins us live in studio. His name is Father Joseph Detweiler. He's a Catholic priest, he's a pastor, and he is a living testament to what is possible when hope refuses to let go. So what's the backstory of this guy? Why would you tune into this episode? Well, let me give you a little bit of a snapshot of what you're about to experience here. As a teenager, Father Joe survived a catastrophic car accident that left doctors unsure if he would ever wake up. If he did wake up, they were pretty sure he would never speak, and they were pretty sure if he could speak, he would not be able to recognize those people he formerly loved. And yet, family and friends and listeners, against overwhelming odds and breaking every medical expectation, not only did he recover, he went on to fulfill his calling to the priesthood, carrying with him a depth of compassion shaped by suffering, faith, and grace. Today, my friend Father Joe joins us to share what it's like to lose everything in an instant, how faith carried him through a coma and a long road of recovery afterwards, and why suffering, and who hasn't suffered in their life, does not mean God is absent. Often, it means he is closer than ever. Joe opens up about the people who refuse to leave aside, the prayers spoken over him, and the quiet, powerful ways that God was working even when hope felt completely out of reach. My friends, brothers and sisters, if you are walking through something hard, whether grief, uncertainty, fear, exhaustion, difficulties in the world we all live in, today's conversation is for you. You will leave reminded that you matter, that your story is not over, and that in every moment in life when you feel powerless, love is still at work on your behalf, and the best is yet to come. To remind us of this truth is my friend, now yours, his name, Father Joe Detweiler. Joe, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
I'm excited about this. I remember hearing you back when I was in high school. You gave a talk way back in the day.
There's no way that I'm that much older than you are. You're my peer. Quit lying.
Whatever you want to tell yourself. But yeah, I remember that was really powerful when I was like 16 or so. But yeah, never thought I'd be here. This is great.
I first heard your story as it was taking place in a hospital here in St. Louis.
My mom said you sent a book.
Wow.
She said, tell you thanks.
She doesn't owe me a thanks or anything else, but we prayed, today in my world, I hear from people, John, back in 1987, we prayed for you. 38 years now, they bump into me and they share that story. I would imagine you hear that, John.
Yes, I had one of those a couple weeks ago.
Well, you're getting another one right now.
All right.
I'm going to let people slowly step into why they were praying for you, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Let's begin by telling our audience, whether they're watching us on YouTube or tuning in through podcast, first, what your full name is.
My name is Father Joseph Andrew Detweiler. I was born and raised in St. Louis. I went to my parish grade school in South County. Then I went to DeSmet High School.
Tell us your mom. Tell us about your dad. What was life like for you growing up?
Well, I'm the sixth of seven in my family. And so that was awesome, but also crazy at the same time. I'm the youngest of the four boys, four boys, three girls. And my family parents are both originally from St. Louis, but for my dad's job for the first 10 or so years of their marriage, they're moving all around. So they're moving all around the country with no family. They had all these kids.
Yeah.
Luckily, my family is really good at making getting plugged into community. So we have friends all around the country. They're in New Jersey for 7 years, and then they're going to move back to St. Louis because my dad's job was just kind of crazy, and they couldn't sell their house. They prayed to St. Joseph, and then they sold their house. They didn't know if I was going to be a boy or girl, but they said they're going to name me after St. Joseph.
No matter what.
Joseph or Josephine would have been my name.
So they sell the house, they bring pregnant mama home.
Yeah.
She starts raising 6 kids, then ultimately 7.
Yeah.
What kind of things were you interested in as a kid?
Sports, playing. We had a big backyard, so playing a lot of sports. And my brothers were all really competitive, and so that was a lot of fun. Just really active. My family had a place in South County, but my grandpa was a businessman in St. Louis. He has a farm out in St. James where there's a lot of land, a lot of horses, cows, chickens. So I grew up going there a lot as a kid and riding horses my whole life. And like, that's actually where the accident happened, was down there. So,
On the way home from there? Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay.
So let's take it forward from the farm.
yeah. So it was at the farm. The big thing, so I'm one of 37 cousins because my mom's also one of 7. So we have a big family business in St. Louis. We're together all the time, which is fun. Hard too, but it's really great. But the big celebration of the year when everyone went down to the farm, because we have a lake and stuff like that too. Everyone went down for the 4th of July. That was the big celebrations out in St. James, Missouri. And in 2010, it was the summer before my senior year of high school. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do after high school, and it became pretty clear to me by that point that God wanted me to go to the seminary.
Can I ask you about that first?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because that's such a bold thing to do.
Yeah.
Like the idea of becoming a nurse is bold when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like to spend the rest of your life as a nurse or a doctor or an attorney.
Yeah.
That's a stretch. But for you to lay down your life and to spend the rest of your life serving in parishes, serving families that aren't seemingly yours, and serving Jesus. It's not what many high school boys are thinking they're going to do with their lives. So before July 4th, tell me about the draw toward that kind of work.
My family, faith was always a really important part of our life growing up, like church every Sunday. It's funny, as a family, my mom would try to have us pray the rosary together, which I appreciate a lot more now. But like, we were trying to pray the rosary and like, we were terrible. We did not pay attention at all. I'm sure it was so frustrating for her, but I definitely see, it was very clear to us that this is important. Right. So we're going to do it even if you come kicking and screaming. And so that foundation was so important for me in my faith. And so as I got to high school, I got involved in a youth ministry program, Cardinal Word out near DeSmet, where I was in high school. I've been on many retreats there, and I love going to retreats. And so when I was at DeSmet, we took like a day-long retreat at the seminary. And I'd never been to the seminary before. At the end of the retreat, there was a priest. He was like, hey, this day was not about vocations or priesthood, but if anyone's interested, we're having a come and see retreat, which is a retreat for guys to come to the seminary to see what it's like to spend time there. At the time, I didn't really have a desire to be a priest.
Yeah.
But I got this form, and I was like, I don't know why I want to go on this, but I did. And actually, the priest who was giving that day-long retreat, who gave me that sign-up sheet, actually ended up being a priest who had a pretty major impact on my life. That was Monsignor Ed Rice. He's now Bishop Rice. So, and he'll come back later on. But
Bishop Rice is one of the best men I have ever met. Down at Holy Redeemer, he was our leader for a while.
He was there for a long time, yeah.
Eddie.
Yo. Get on yourself. But so I went on the retreat. The first thing that stuck out to me was the food at the seminary was awesome.
Good recruiting tools.
There's always cookies everywhere. The food was really good, and also I just had a really good time getting to know the guys and getting to see that like they're just fun guys. And so one guy, along with Bishop Monsignor Rice, then I also met a guy, Father Zach Popus, who actually he'll end up playing a pretty major role in the story of my life later on. I first met them that weekend, and then it was great until that. Usually with retreats, the highlight is usually Saturday nights, usually when the big breakthrough happens. And so for me, that's what happened with me. I know as a priest, I pray Liturgy of the Hours, which is a set of prayers 5 times throughout the day, mostly the Psalms and other parts of Scripture. And so there's 5 hours, and the last hour of the day is night prayer. At the end of night prayer, we usually say a prayer or sing a hymn to Mary. And I had never prayed Liturgy of the Hours before, but at that point in the year, we were singing the hymn, the Salve Regina, which is the Hail Holy Queen in Latin. I remember it was interesting because I'd never been in a chapel of 30 other young men who were actually singing.
Right.
Because like at a boys' school.
It's a different sound when men sing.
Yeah. Like no one ever sings it, masses or whatever. And at this time when I heard the song to Mary, it was interesting. It was providential. Like I couldn't tell what was going on. I could just tell something's happening. And I don't know what it is. The fact that I didn't know is actually really providential because that weekend I came, had this great experience, and then I kind of describe it as like an itch. I kept coming back over and over again, spending more time in the seminary, building those relationships with Monsignor Rice and Father Bovis, and asking those important questions about what I want for my life. Most 16-year-old kids don't ask themselves.
And to make sure the listeners go along for the ride, most 36-year-olds aren't really asking themselves. Most 66-year-olds haven't really
That's true.
truly pondered.
Yeah. So asking those important questions of myself, first off, and then developing a deep prayer life. My family had built the foundation, but then also prayer life was like kind of making it not my own, but it's like taking ownership of it.
Right.
And then also building those relationships with Zach and Monsignor Rice. I remember like yesterday at high school, people ask you a lot like, what would you picture yourself 10 years from now? What do you see yourself doing? And when I closed my eyes, my mind instantly went to, I'm a priest in black hearing confessions. I didn't plan on that happening, but building the strong friendships with Zach and Monsignor Rice, it's like, I not only like want to be a good guy like them, like I want to be them. I want to do that thing. And so in discernment of priestly vocation, it's really important to be aware, like that's not a normal thing for a guy to experience. And then the summer leading up to my senior year, the plan was to go to the seminary after high school. And it's a great plan. In the middle of June, I took out the application to the seminary and it began the very lengthy process. Monsignor Rice, the vocation director, gave me the application. And there's many medical evaluations you have to take. You also have to take a psychological evaluation. And so I took my psych eval. The results from my psych eval came in on July 2nd.
Oh, my Lord.
And they came in very positively. But then I can't make this stuff up. So then on July 3rd, I was in the ER at the lake. We have a big fireworks show. One of the cans tipped over and hit me in the shoulder. I was in the ER that night of July 3rd for the fireworks. And then the next day, on July 4th, my sister and I were driving from our lake to our house down at the farm, which is a 2-mile stretch. But it's also like the 2-lane highways that are really curvy and there's no road on the sides, so they're pretty narrow. And so we were arguing in the car, and I lost control of the car. And
What car were you driving?
We were driving an F-150 or F-250 truck. And we swerved into a tree at 40 miles an hour.
What do you remember before the impact?
Nothing. My last distinct memory pre-car accident was a dance I went to in high school. My junior ring dance was happening in late April, and then the actual was July 4th, so pretty much blanked in my memory. But actually, so people will sometimes ask me, am I back to normal? And my last distinct memory to that dance, I wore a denim suit, and my date wore a denim dress. It was awesome.
Right. I wish you would have blocked out that memory too and go back one more day to get rid of the denim. So you remember that. You don't remember the accident well, but your sister does.
Yes.
So I've seen the photos of the event.
Yes.
And at first I thought I was looking at like a photoshopped thing because it's the reason I asked you what kind of car it was, I can't tell.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
Well, because also it's tough because it's like we hit a tree, so the ambulance. So luckily, there's a lot of pieces that fit together in the first like 10 minutes. If they don't fit together as they do, like I don't even make it to the hospital. So there's a man, nice man, the Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
He is a very humble, very gentle man. He was driving on the 4th of July, and he drove by, then doubled back.
So he saw it down in the ditch.
And he stopped off to help us, and he called the ambulance. But then also, like, it wasn't just that he called the ambulance, but he waited with us till the ambulance got there. He also noticed that part of the issues was that my carotid artery was severed, which is pretty bad, because I'm told that when your brain is injured, especially I had a really, really severe one. So when your brain is injured, all the blood rushes to your brain. So it was rushing to my brain, then going out my neck. And so I would have bled out in a couple minutes. So this man who found us said, this needs to stop. And so, but the issue was that he couldn't reach me. So the only person that could reach me was my sister, who was next to me in a car. So he gave her a towel, and she held that on my neck to the ambulance.
So your injured sister is now providing the life support for her injured brother.
Yeah.
You also had a priest that showed up on the scene.
Yeah. So he was the local priest in St. James. There weren't many Catholic priests in the area, so he knew my oldest sister, Liz, because he used to work at her college at Mizzou, where she went to college. And so she had invited him out to her lake to hang out with us on that day, randomly. He'd never been out there before.
Right.
But he showed up, and within 5 minutes, the accident happened, and they gave us both the last rites at the scene of the accident.
My friend is a firefighter, first responder, a
Yeah.
leader within the first responders, and typically takes somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes to cut people out. For you, it was 45 minutes.
Yes.
And for your sister, 2 hours.
2 hours. So yeah, that's why the picture that you saw seeing the car doesn't look like a car, because that's not just from the tree. That's after the jaws of life machine was pulling it apart, but also and I found out that it was the 4th of July, so it's hot, and they got these heavy suits on, and people are passing out left and right. And also, when your brain is injured, what helps your brain recover is blood and air. And my blood was cut off with the carotid artery, and my air was cut off so they had to trach me at the scene.
Gosh.
Which I've been told usually does not work. And the paramedic who did it, he's like, if I had to do that 10 more times, I would not be able to do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, if this doesn't work, we're done.
I'm going to read a list of the injuries. Then you can add the ones I'm
Okay.
forgetting. But
Yeah,
here's
sure.
a partial list
Sure.
of how you
Yeah.
present in hospital later on that day. Happy 4th of July. Here it comes. Fractured skull, brain bleed, brain swelling, traumatic TBI, brain pressure, bolt, 3 strokes, compromised cut carotid artery, broken jaw, bruised ribs, collapsed lung, damage to your eyes, detached right ear.
Yeah.
You're on a vent. Coma kicks in.
Yeah, I was in the helicopter ride back to St. Louis. That's where I had the 3 strokes. When I got to the hospital, luckily I had some amazing doctors put me in an induced coma, so my brain could concentrate on recovering. They gave me this thing called the Glasgow Coma Scale, which tells you how bad a coma is. I'm not a doctor, but I'm told if you score below 5, that means you have permanent, irreversible brain damage. My score is 3. On some other tests called the FIM test to measure brain function, it's scored between 17 and 119, and my score was 22. Oh, man. And I mean, at the scene, everyone thought I was dead at the scene.
Yeah.
But then I get to the hospital, and it seems like it's just confirmed.
Right.
And also I had a trach, but then also my jaw was wired shut for 6 weeks because it was broken, had to be reset. I received 10 units of blood, which is equivalent to, I'm told, my entire blood supply. And also from the strokes, they noticed that I had aneurysms as well in my carotid artery.
Okay. So typically when I'm interviewing medical miracles like I am today, I'm asking them first-person questions. This is almost like, what were you told by others? One of my first questions is going to be, Mom and Dad eventually make it in. They have that meeting that no parent ever wants with the doctors, the medical staff. What is the medical staff telling your parents?
Fortunately, I had one Dr. Jeff Leonard. He's a really amazing doctor. He, mostly, we don't know. There's a lot of signs we're seeing. It's not good, but we don't know. That was the one hope that there was for my Dr. Leonard, who I talked to, and he was like, until you tell me definitively, I'm not gonna, because kids usually do better than you think they will.
Yeah.
But yeah, the prognosis was pretty grim because it was not only because usually the trach results in permanent vocal cord damage, at the very least. But then also with the amount of brain function I was showing, they were told that he will most likely, there's a pretty good chance that he'll never talk. Yeah, we don't know, but that's a very real possibility. But if he talks, they'll start with sounds, they'll go to words, and they'll maybe go to sentences down the road. But it's and it's also it's one thing to hear that, but then to see me in my bed, it's just traumatic. My family, since I have a big family, a lot of friends, a big network of people supporting me. My sister Liz was really great because for my parents, it's how do you even do anything? And so she kind of organized a schedule. They had people staying with me 24 hours a day, my sister and I both in our rooms. And so that's when I saw your dad.
That's another thing. It's just the idea of your sister being a bed away.
Yeah.
It's hard enough when trauma hits one of
Yeah.
your babies.
Yeah.
But when it grabs
We
two
were
of them.
next door to each other in the ICU. There's no plans for any of this, but it was really amazing to see how obviously trauma happens, but it brought out the best in everyone. My family really came together and very generously staying with me. And it was interesting, I get perspective on this. I was visiting with a man who was in ICU. He was dying. He was on a ventilator, and I prayed with him and his family. And then when I got back to my car, I sat down. I was like, "Oh, holy crap! I had no idea."
Yeah.
Because I say the word coma a lot. I had no idea what it's like on the other side. Because basically, they would talk to me too. And the TV in the room, they had a 24-hour loop of home videos playing.
Okay.
And so I could at least hear their voices because hearing's the last thing to go.
You're saying you're hearing their voices. Do you remember hearing their voices?
No, but
what's your first memory in the hospital?
my first memory in the hospital, so actually we'll get to that. So I was in the ICU for 3 weeks or so. One of the really,
By the way, listeners and viewers,
Oh, yeah.
Father Joe came prepared with artifacts. So he's got pieces of
I
paper
tell
and
the
wooden
story a
rosaries
lot,
and
yeah.
artist work. And so
because it's most of the story that I'm telling you is almost all secondhand. This
Yeah.
is a result of interviews and asking people because I'm trying to piece this together. There's only a few authentic articles from the story, and this is one of them. This is a letter that was written to me by my sister Liz, and she wrote this to me when I was in the coma.
and I'm going to just take a deep breath for a moment.
Yeah.
For me, when I think of my story, I'm fine. I healed. I'm good. I'm moving forward in life. But when I think about the struggle and suffering that my siblings and parents went through because of my story, it breaks me. Yeah. And I would imagine as you're about to read this letter, knowing what she went through,
Yeah.
it's probably almost harder than knowing what you went through.
Yes, because I was asleep. I was in a coma. I don't remember any of it. She talks about how the letters, like, if I get out, I'll have something to read. But there's a pretty good chance that I will not get out. Also, like, if I do wake up, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read.
Right.
Or, like, so, like, but that was one of the harder things because it's like, my parents kept asking, like, how's he doing? What's going on? They were like,
We don't know.
because with the brain, nothing is normal. She wrote this letter to me, and I'm going to read it to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Dear Joseph, it's now 20 days after your accident. We miss you, and every day we are thankful that you didn't die, and every day we wish we could see you back to your normal self. You have healed really well, and now we're just waiting for your brain and God to heal itself. The doctors say you have to make new neural pathways to compensate. I know you can do it, and I know it will take time. Someone gave me the idea to write to you while you're in the coma because it might be helpful to read when you wake up and helpful for me to write, so I decided to start today. Mom sleeps with Bongo every night, which is my Beanie Baby when I was a kid, and Dad cries every morning and every night. He thought he saw you look at him last night and grab his hand, and he feels terrible that he can't help you or take your place. We all wish we could take your place, buddy. It's very hard to watch home movies or look at pictures on the wall taken just a few weeks ago, of you healthy and funny and smiling, and then to see you in the hospital bed. I can't believe what has happened to this family. Maybe my accident was in preparation for yours. She was in a near-death accident 7 years prior to us. I'm trying to help Mom and Dad. They can't bear the idea that you might not come back to us. None of us can. I miss you, and I'm angry that this happened to you, and I will do everything I can to help you get better. Everyone is doing their best, and I know you would be so proud of our family, just as I am. They all take shifts to sign up eagerly to hang out with you and hold your hand, just in case you wake up or just in case you can hear us in there. We don't want you to feel alone or sad or scared. We feel alone, sad, and scared too, but we are so lucky to have each other. We talk to you and tell you stories, jokes, and pray with you. I read you the gospel when I can, and Kathy Conley says the rosary with you. Monsignor Rice and Zach say divine office with you. I hope you can hear us and feel comforted. I hope you're not scared. I try not to cry when I'm in there with you because I don't want you to feel scared or sad or that something's wrong with you so that you would be frightened. Mom and I cried the first day because it was so hard to see you all banged up and to know that it probably hurt. They told us your sister saved your life in there, holding your neck in the car among other people. So you two will probably have a lot to talk about when you come out of it.
I don't know how you're reading this without crying, but you're a bigger man than I, so continue.
I've read it many times. This next paragraph. It's so scary for us because, in all caps, we don't know how you feel or how you are or if you'll wake up, or if you ever be yourself again, and all bold, or if you will even remember us at all again. And so we try to keep it together, but it's hard. The waiting is so hard. And all those yahoos, in all caps, who tell us that it's on God's time, I want to kill, in all caps. I know it is. I know that God has helped us through this, but man, oh man, I don't appreciate their self-righteous advice. Just shut the hell up, bake us a casserole, okay? Because people made meals for 4 months. See, I am lashing out irrationally by people that love you. I am an angry, sad person. Okay, I'll try to write to you every day. It helps me, and I hope it will help you when you're awake enough to want to read something. We need you. Our family would never recover if we lost you. Keep fighting, okay? I love you, Jojo. Don't leave me. Liz. Then there's a parentheses afterwards that says, I only wrote this entry it was too hard to write anymore. And one of the things that sticks out to me in that letter is that even though not subconsciously planning this, it's like she starts off, Dear Joseph, and she ends with, I love you, Jojo. I have not been called Joseph since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And Jojo was a nickname to have when I was a little kid. And so the bookends of that letter is back to my childhood when life wasn't so hard. It's really hard for me now. People are like shocked at the story, but it's really emphasized like, no, like it was really bad. She told me later that even though things were bad, her one source of hope was that, and it was a seemingly foolish hope. She's like, and like similar to my doctor, she said, until I hear definitively that he's not going to recover, I'm not even going to entertain that thought. And it's just like, to see me in the bed, it's kind of ridiculous. But she had hope, and she's feisty, just like my mom, a lot of people in my family. So she was able to organize it was also tough because I know we were both at the same hospital for a while, but eventually my sister moved to a different hospital. We were at separate places, and neither of them were close to my family's house. It was also hard because my sister moved out, but I was still in a coma. So I was in an induced coma for about 3 or so weeks when they took me out of they're trying to gradually get me out of the coma. And this is funny. One of my doctors, he told me later that and this is one of the interviews, my doctor, Jose, he said that, it was scary because not only were we seeing all these negative signs about your brain progress, but he's like, we're trying to wean you off of the medication for the coma, but you were not waking up. That actually probably was, I think,
terrifying.
Yeah, but it's also there's a big dose of hope in there too. So this Dr. Jeff Leonard, who was a really great doctor of mine, when I was in the ICU, given all those scores, I actually didn't qualify for the rehab unit. I wouldn't have been able to handle it because I couldn't do anything. But he grabbed another doctor by the shoulder and he said, hey, I think he's in there. It was only because he was the head doctor there that I moved up to the rehab floor. And then when I got to the floor, I remember my mom telling me, cautious optimism.
Right.
Because it's like my jaw's still wired shut. And this is probably the hardest part for my family because my eyes would open sometimes and I can move a little bit, but I clearly was not there. I had a trach, but also my jaw was wired shut. I couldn't really feeding tube, all that kind of stuff. And so my mom said, she was like, I mean, I'm glad he's up here, but are you sure he's in there?
So I've seen the videos of you from that time. And in some regards, it's almost worse to look at you like that than when you were bandaged and swollen and beat down in the
talk about
sleep.
the letter, my dad saw you look at him and grab his hand, and it's like, that's even worse. My family, though, still was faithfully coming to stay with me and pray with me. Also, they were praying to St. Jude, patron saint of lost causes. We had a feast day a couple days ago, and I guess given my situation, I qualified. I talked about a really deep encounter with Mary back first hearing the call to the seminary, but another really, really deep encounter with Mary. So it's interesting. As a priest, like I said, we pray a liturgy of the hours, and it's mostly the Psalms. And so I read the Psalms a lot in my life. One of the Psalms that always sticks out to me is Psalm 127. Talks about how we work so hard for the things of this world, but they pass away. But if we just trust God, the line says, God pours gifts on his beloved while they slumber. Looking back at my time in the coma, wow, that's a real thing. Like I said earlier, my friend Zach, who was a seminarian back then, would take one of the shifts to stay with me. Monsignor Rice would come and stay with me too. Monsignor Rice, or Bishop Rice now, said, what is the worst time that no one else can take? And so he stayed in my room every Friday night for 4 months. And when him and Zach would be in my room.
Let me just gotta stop you there, man. Here's this gentleman who's on his way to become a bishop, Springfield Diocese. Meaning he's drawn in a million directions. And here's a fellow who is in demand saying, give me the worst time slot. I'll take it. What does that say about Father Rice?
It's really inspiring to me. It's the role of a priest. It's give me the worst that no one else wants to take. That speaks to his priestly heart, I think. And it's also just an inspiration for me of how I'm called to love people too.
Tell me what the words in that case mean to you. I think they're the first words that you scribbled onto a napkin.
Oh.
About 2 months into recovery.
Yeah, and so when I'm up on the floor, I'm still not really, my jaw's still wired shut, I still have the trach, and so they would have me write on dry erase boards. Because there were questions on dry erase boards, and I would write the answer in, and they were they kept trying to get me to write something, and I was not responding.
Right.
And I was not doing it. So they basically said, fine, Joe, you can write whatever you want. And then apparently I wrote on the board, in that case, And then also one on the board, they also said, does dad tell funny jokes? We're very clearly no in the corner.
So they're finding out step by step you're in there. But also the day you find your voice again, I think your mother's told you, you may never find your speech again.
Yeah.
And one of our mutual friends happens to be in the room when you speak for the very first time.
Oh, yeah, Father Ronnie, yeah.
Will you tell that story?
So initially on day 74, when they took the trach out of my throat, again, the meeting with my parents before, like, cautious optimism, like, this is progress, but, like, we don't know what's going to happen. And also, what usually happens when someone's trach like this is seen also with the amount of brain damage issues that he's had. They were told that, like, best case scenario, maybe in a couple months he'll be making sounds. And then, like I said earlier, then maybe words, and then maybe sentences. If you ever met it, it won't probably have with the TBI. It's just like, it's pretty clear deficits, which is not their fault. It's just part of the injury. And so that's kind of what they were expecting. And also, so my sister was at a separate hospital too. And at the hospital, there are a lot of people who had my injury. That's what they were looking at. And that's kind of what they were thinking. The surgery happened for the trach to come out of my throat, to hopefully speech will come back at some point. Our mutual friend, Father Ronnie Detwiler, was in my room praying evening prayer. And part of that prayer is you say the glory be a lot. He said from his chair, glory be to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit. And then apparently from my bed, I whispered, as it was in the beginning, is now, will be forever. Amen. And I don't know if any listeners out there know Ronnie, but it's like, he's a nervous guy. And he was telling me he was losing his mind. He was like, I just started sweating. I didn't know what was going on, because he was like, because they kept me in the coma because stimulation would cause my brain pressure to shoot up. I'm not sure how they measure brain pressure. When I first got checked into the ICU, brain pressure is supposed to be between 5 and 10. Mine was at 49. Brain pressure was a constant worry for me. He was like, I didn't want to call your brain pressure go up. So he just kept praying. And then he got to the glory be again. And apparently I finished off again. And then also one of the big effects, like I said earlier, of brain injuries is personality shifts. People use it very different the rest of their lives. They saw that my humor was coming back. My personality was still there because when I woke up, I hadn't shaved for a long time. So I said it was itchy on my face. And so I said, take the beard, leave the stash.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
It's like a bumper sticker right there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Take the beard, leave the stash. It's funny when I tell this story to people, it's just like, I've never met anyone ever trach and ever talks again.
Did your voice change?
I'm still not a great singer.
We'll come back to that, because I heard otherwise. Otherwise.
But so this all happened with like words, sentences, jokes. I'm able to actually hold up a conversation with him. I'm able to refer to people from DeSmet who are not currently in that room. And all this happened after the surgery was 6 hours.
So one of the nurses who worked with you described you as someone in 30 years of work, if she ever witnessed a miracle, she did it in your care.
Yeah.
So this was almost 10 years ago where she shared this with me.
Oh, really?
What do you say when you hear that? When someone describes what you went through and the life you now have as in a career worth of doing work that is amazing and hard and challenging, and amazing things happen, that if she had to pinpoint one example of something miraculous, I'm seated across from it.
Yeah. It is, and I've heard other doctors say the very same thing. I think it's funny because it's like people talk about like my story, and it's like a lot of it's not about me. And I've come to see this, especially as a priest. It's like in our poverty, right? God's power is most clear because it's clear that I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And it's also interesting, it's very helpful. We might think that because it's also interesting, like you said, like there's pictures, like my family took a lot of pictures throughout the journey, which wouldn't seem to make a lot of sense at the time, but I'm really grateful because it's like now when I'm trying to visualize what did this look like, there it is. And it's also really helpful as a priest because it's like sometimes doing a lot of things and like I got to perform, I got to preach a good homily, I got to do all this stuff. And it can get very easy to get caught up in myself. And I think it's true in any profession. I was praying with that one morning, and it was when I was in seminary. I was just thinking about how, like, sometimes we're like, am I going to say the right thing and do the right thing? But it's like, never before in my life have I ever brought more people to prayer, more people to faith, all these things. I've never evangelized ever before in my life, and I had nothing to do with it. And so sometimes it's wouldn't sound helpful in the service, but God's just like, hey, I love you. I want to use you. you're my beloved, but just so you know, like, I don't need you. I'm not limited by you and your own stuff.
So we could spend the remainder of our time talking about the recovery, physical, emotional, spiritual. I'd rather jump a little bit into the spiritual piece.
Yeah.
Many folks who go through tragedy and suffering and struggle push God away from them afterwards. Because how could a loving God that they had turned to in the past allow what they went through to endure? Why would they endure that? You, I'm sure, wrestled with it, but instead you actually were even more attracted into your faith. Will you talk about that?
Yeah. So people usually just don't know what to say. People don't really know how to respond to trauma. People say stuff like, oh, God's, like my sister said, oh, God's got a plan, but it's like, that is not helpful. Sometimes we think if we just white knuckle through this, maybe eventually it'll be okay. But as I've gotten the chance, this perspective to look back at my life, not only was I evangelizing more, but like I was being loved by God more than ever before. And it kind of hit me one day in the face. That's like, because I was receiving air, blood, food. I couldn't do anything. The only thing that I could do was receive. I couldn't put up any obstacles to God's love, which usually the issue is that I put up obstacles. He's loving me, but I block him out.
Wow.
But I could only receive. And
somewhere in here is a sermon that I might preach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. But it's also like we worship a God who carries a cross, right? I think about the movie The Passion, which is pretty gruesome, but it's just like I visualize Jesus carrying the cross a lot because it's like the cross is heavy. There's probably splinters. Like a lot of our crosses in church is really nice, and it's like, probably was not like that. And he's already been beaten up, and at the end of the journey is still death. With every step that he takes toward that, like first off, he doesn't have to take. He's in total freedom the whole time. And also, I think what moves him to make that next step is me. And I think that's twofold, that not only he's coming to save me from my sins, save you from your sins, but it's also like, I come for Father Joe because I want to be able to relate to him. Because if I don't carry a cross, then like when he comes to me with this pain, I have no idea what he's talking about. And so Jesus not only carries the cross to save us, but it's also like thinking about in Matthew's gospel when he says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. At times like this, that doesn't seem like true. But that image is genius because a yoke is always pulled by two oxen. This yoke is not easy because it's painless. This yoke is easy because we're not the only ones carrying it.
Wow.
And so like we can look to the other side of this head burden that we have on our back and see Jesus over there. And and it's also like, I don't want someone to be able to have all the answers. Just he can be like, hey, I know.
How has enduring this cross for you allowed you to connect with those who struggle themselves?
It really, just like that very thing I just talked about. I know a little bit about what's helpful to say and what's not helpful to say. Just being there with people, like following the example of Bishop Rice and Father Pobus, and just being present to people in their suffering, just walking with people. I think, especially as Americans, we want to fix it now and give you solutions, but there's no solutions. And I can't do anything with you, or I can't do anything right now. I just preached about this on All Souls Day, but I can just cry with you.
What would you say to people who say, how can a loving God allow people to suffer?
Well, that's a tricky question. I think we want to know why, and I think that why question is a big sticking point for a lot of people. And this is just my own experience, but I think that's the wrong question. Why? Because it's like, I'm never going to know why in my limited human understanding. The right question is where? Where? So like looking back my life, I've been able to pinpoint like his hands all over it. But like I got to take a second to look back. He was there, but sometimes it's really hard because he's very subtle. He doesn't make himself known totally clearly, but his hands all over our stories that we just have eyes to see. And so the why question is not, it's a question, it's not helpful. At least in my understanding, it has been helpful in my life. And I think in a lot of people that I walk with, like the why questions, like we dwell on that, but like it's just a sticky question.
You say shift it to where?
Yeah. Where is God in your suffering? Because it's like, we kind of take a second to look back because he's there.
I'm sure you hear it a lot. You walk around as a Catholic priest, very public facing with your faith. I hear a lot, I am spiritual, but I don't believe in organized religion.
Yeah.
When you hear folks say, I got enough with my spirituality, I don't need an organized religion to guide me forward, how do you respond to that?
Well, there's probably a lot of responses. I would say go back to scripture, right? So like many people accept the Bible as divinely inspired. Some people might not. But if there is a God, we didn't all just appear out of nowhere. Like I talked to the kids at school about this. Like I had my phone. Did this just appear? How do you know it didn't just appear? Because it's very complicated. Something as complicated as a human body, human emotion, and all the things, this didn't just get here. If there's a God, which we can know by natural reason, there is a God on the very surface, but it's like, do you think he actually wants me to, if he does exist, do you just want me to follow him? When we look at history, we see God coming to earth, Jesus fulfilling all these prophecies. And I think about the ascension. When Jesus left, he didn't say, hey, here's the Bible. You guys figure it out. He said, no, he left us with 12 apostles, right? So when he says, in his time on earth, when he talks about the kingdom and church are synonymous. He meant to give us a body. He meant to find, that's what St. Paul talked all about, the body of Christ, because it's not just, the body of Christ, not just spiritual, hippie thing, right? It's a visible thing. Because if God just stays up in the vague, spiritual, it's it can be helpful, but it doesn't really affect my life that much.
Yes.
And so he gave us a church. And if we look at history, the earliest apostles. So
where do you turn when you struggle today?
Sometimes hearing my story, people think they're like, oh, I bet you never struggle. I'm like, oh man. Actually, one of the people ask me about, is there any side effects from my injuries or whatever? And actually, after all the issues I've had, the only medication I take is a baby aspirin every day. That's it. So that's pretty amazing.
It's pretty solid, man.
Pretty solid. And I work out and can do most things. I found out the hard way I can't go on roller coasters.
I was about to say, tell me more.
Yeah, I went to Six Flags one day, and I went on the Screaming Eagle and the Boss, and I had a massive headache. And then I talked to my parents later. I realized that with my brain condition, I guess when the doctor told me that I can't get on a ladder, that included roller coasters too. So that was kind of a funny day. But the hardest consequence for me is that I look in the mirror and see no evidence of neurological issues, so I can forget. And it's also sometimes it's kind of a challenge, talking to people, and most people kind of know, but I'll be talking, I'm like, hey, you need to follow this up with an email because I'm probably going to forget about this conversation.
So neurologically, has it affected you long term?
Yeah, there's still some short-term memory issues, but I've been able to cope pretty well with that. And thought organization, when I'm told many things and I can't write them down to keep them straight in my mind, it's very difficult to keep them straight in my mind.
Okay.
Just the way that I learned had to totally change. Luckily, I've had really good speech therapists, so I was able, went through 9 years of seminary, and I have a philosophy degree. I wrote a master's thesis. People don't really apply the whole memory loss thing anymore.
But it's there.
It's there. It's also, when I order something off Amazon, it's almost always a surprise. It's like this
what
can you?
That's right.
It's like, hey, I need it. This is great. I tell people when I go to the hospital. I go to a hospital in St. Charles every Friday to visit with people to anoint them. And sometimes I tell people hey, do you want to go to confession? And people are like, I don't know. And I'm like, hey, I'm the only priest in St. Louis with short-term memory loss. And sometimes they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm serious about that. So that's my claim to fame.
Well, I'll be out there for it. I need a good short-term confessional.
Yeah, for sure.
For those listening or watching us right now who themselves are struggling, which means everybody with ears to hear and eyes to see, who's not?
Yeah.
What's your encouragement to them?
He knows. He knows. Part of my master's thesis, I read a book by C.S. Lewis called The Problem of Pain. It's a masterpiece. And he talks about how the God that we want a senile grandpa in the sky who just takes away all the pain and gives us candy, makes us feel good. But he's like, that's not the God that we have. That was really transformative for me when I realized that when I go to him, he knows. No one else knows what I'm going through, but he really does. And that changes everything. And so I think I would encourage people, we have a God who loves us and who cares for us not just to create us and hold us in existence, but to enter into suffering, not because he has to, but because he knows that if he wants to be able to relate to us, then he has to do that. Because if we worship God who doesn't suffer, that means nothing to us.
Well, you said something earlier that I'm hearing whispers of again, and I heard it from my own dad, and it was your father looking over his dying son's side and saying, I wish I could change places with you.
Yeah.
And my father and mother said the exact same thing. They would have done anything to jump into those
Yeah.
marriages and die for me. And our faith background informs us that our God loved us enough that he did exactly that.
He did. Yeah.
So we're going to shift gears into what we call the Live Inspired 7.
Okay.
These are 7 questions that have tethered presidents, astronauts, authors, and now my friend, Father Joe.
Okay.
Number 1, this is a cakewalk for you, man. What's been the best, most impactful book you've ever read?
The Problem of Pain, C.S. Lewis.
What's one positive characteristic or one beautiful trait that you possess as a little kid growing up and you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today?
I think as a kid, I was very trusting. And I think as most people, as you become an adult, you start to not trust people.
Yeah.
Yeah, even God. So trusting.
Right on. Even God.
Yeah.
If your home caught fire, if your rectory caught fire, and all living things are out, and you have an opportunity of running in and grabbing one item, what's the one thing you would save?
There's a picture, the picture that ended up being on my holy card. This picture was originally drawn by my friend Caroline in high school. At the time that she first drew this original picture, I had just been checked into the ICU. So she's drawing this picture. She's being told that I'm probably not going to wake up or ever talk again. So she's thinking that there's no hope, not there's no hope, but everything's terrible. I can't do anything, but I'm just going to draw this picture.
What's it say on the front of it?
It says, as a quote from Romans 12, rejoice in hope, be patient in suffering, persevere in prayer. That's Romans 12:12.
Father, if you could sit on a bench with anybody on a gorgeous day and have a long conversation, the person could be living or dead, who would you like to be seated next to? There's room for 2.
Okay, 2. So on the surface, I love John Wayne. My grandpa would always show us John Wayne movies out at the farm all the time. So to meet John Wayne will be amazing. Also, Deathbed Conversion, too. But and also, St. Maximilian Kolbe will probably be really awesome.
What's the best advice either of those 2 ever gave you? Or anyone else? The best advice you've ever received is?
It was my first couple weeks of seminary. Bishop Rice, he was working at the seminary at the time. He said, 80% of life is just showing up. And I found that to be true.
So Bishop Rice used to say our mass before he was a fancy bishop.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to go to 6:15 in the morning mass. And 22 minutes after it began, we'd be walking back out to our cars, changed. I mean, in a 60-second sermon,
Oh, yeah.
he would light you up. He just had a way of condensing it down.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself at age 20? So this is shortly after your accident, as you're
Yeah.
still really trying to figure out what you're called to do next. What advice does that kid need to hear?
Well, yeah, that was a time when just either beginning seminary and I was really so struggling a lot with insecurity because it's I don't know, in my mind, I was injured. I got to compensate and all these kind of things. But it's just I think this is typical for my family, the Detweilers. Take a chill pill. It's going to be okay. You're surrounded by people that love you.
Father Joe Detweiler, it has been said that all great people and priests can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
I think about all these pieces of my story. The sentence would be, there'd be a comma, but I did not come up with any of this. This is clearly God's initiative. Clearly, because I very clearly had no power in a lot of this. It's it's clearly all his initiative.
Well, it is all his initiative, and it's a good reminder not only in your life or in mine, but in ours.
Yeah.
Father Joe, I want to thank you for spending
You're welcome.
an hour with us today, but more
great to
importantly, I
be
want to
with
thank you
you.
for spending your life drawing other people forward in their faith.
Thank you. It's been a gift.
My friends, this is the miracle story of my friend and now yours. His name is Father Joe Detweiler. My name is John O'Leary. Today is our day. What a gift it is. Live inspired. Father Joe Detweiler reminds us that when life hurts, the most important question is not why, it's where's God in this? Where is love still quietly showing up? Where is hope quietly holding on, even when I can't see it or feel it or see it quite yet? My friends, Father Joe's story reminds us that in the hardest seasons of life, we don't have to have all the strength. Sometimes we just need to have the strength and the courage and the wisdom to receive strength and encouragement and love from others. If you've enjoyed listening to this conversation with Joe, you will love one of our most downloaded episodes of all time with my friend Austin Hatch. Man, Austin has a story. Austin survived, no, not one, 2 plane crashes. He lost his entire immediate family. He spent months in a coma and was told that he would never walk again. And yet this individual, this guest, this friend, this mighty person chose purpose. He chose perseverance. He chose not to let his worst days, again, 2 plane crashes separately, not to let his worst days define the rest of his life. My friends, if you need a real life example of resilience, of hope in action, of a miracle among us, this conversation is for you. You can check out the conversation with Austin Hatch at the Live Inspired Podcast with John O'Leary 312, or just cruise on over to my website right now. I got room for you right there. It is johnolearyinspires.com/podcast. In today's show notes, I'll have a link to the Austin Hatch conversation. You won't want to miss it. And my friends, if it's been a while since you have made sure you are subscribed to our podcast, do so now. If it's been a while since you've liked this podcast, please do so right now. And if it's been a while since you shared with others that you tune into the podcast, so should they. Do it today. I think we live in a world that is so divided, so negative, so cynical, and so in need of these stories of miracles we bring to bear, we bring to life week after week. Let them know that you tune in to the Live Inspired Podcast with John O'Leary, and so should they. So family, let's wrap up this episode and get us moving forward into our lives. For this time and until next time, my name is John O'Leary. Today is your day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire.
Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today, and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.